everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to work on some stickers and I wanted to do a little tutorial today of how I design and make stickers using my Silhouette and Silhouette Studio software. So in this video I'm going to take you through my kind of a little bit about my design process and testing process, and also show you how I take the designs into Silhouette Studio, some of my favourite hacks and things that you can use for designing stickers in there as well, and then printing and cutting them on the Silhouette machine. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you find it super useful, but yeah, let's get into it. So first things first, I design my stickers using an iPad and Procreate like a lot of creators. The first thing we're going to do is work on some sticker designs in here. The pack I'm going to be working on in this video predominantly is a new star sign sticker pack. So we're going to be working on those, some themed stickers around star signs, and yeah, we're going to work on kind of creating a die cut pack with around sort of 8 or 9 stickers depending on how they end up being, how big they end up being. We'll probably do 9. We've got I've worked on around about 4 so far, so we're going to be working on the first 4 of those, which is normally how I do them. I do them in batches and then like see, oh, like what kind of next sticker could next sort of fit in this set, if that makes sense. So we're going to be working on the first 4 designs and then we're going to put them into Silhouette Studio and start having a play about with the layout and the colours and things like that. So I've got a couple of designs that I'm happy with that I want to try and test out and see how they come out. I've now just airdropped them to my Mac and I'm opening up Silhouette Studio to start working on them and start test printing them. So let's go to the next step. In Silhouette Studio, I'm just using the basic edition, and what I've done is I've sent these artworks to my computer and I've opened them up in separate tabs here across the top. So our first one has appeared in here. Already I can see that we will get to talk about colours a little bit later on, but the colours are kind of looking a bit darker and a bit more not quite how they were looking in Procreate. So we'll talk about colours a little bit later on as well. But I want to show you how I will go about sort of testing and setting up a document to die cut stickers. Later I will also show you how to set up for a sticker sheet, because I also make little sheets. The process is exactly the same for that up until this point, so this is where things get a little bit different as to how we set it up. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this, and I'm going to go to my design and area setup. So I've got Portrait 3 and A4 selected, which is my paper size. So that's brilliant. And it shows here, it's kind of got the mat and just shows how your document will sit on the mat. What I want to do next is I want to show the registration marks, because we are doing a print and cut document. So here it showed me the areas where I shouldn't be placing anything in these patched areas essentially. Those are the no-go zones, and I also don't want to go beyond these lines here around the edge. So this is the kind of area that I'm working with. I just use the default registration marks. Some people like the inverted ones better, and I don't like to move anything or change anything because yeah, I just don't like to do it. I like to go with Silhouette's recommended settings, but I'm sure there are people out there who will advise if you want to switch things up a bit. So first things first, this is far too big. At the moment this is nearly 10 centimeters, and I don't like to make my stickers that large, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to resize it up at the top here. I'm going to have my dimensions locked, so if I change the width it will automatically change the height, and for now I'm going to change the width to 5 centimeters, which makes it nice and small to work with, and it's nicely proportioned. So the next thing that I want to do with this is to create a nice even white line around the edge. I don't want the machine to cut exactly around the edge. I want it to be a nice white border around. So to do that, super simple, we're going to go down here to offset. Open the offset panel. Where's it gone? Oh, it's hidden under here. Lovely, and I'll bring this over here so you can see it. And we're going to select our shape and we're going to hit offset. And voila, a nice line appears around the edge. So there are a few things that we want to do with this. We want to make it probably slightly bigger. So we make it bigger or smaller. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, as you make the offset bigger, you are affecting the size of your sticker, so you might just want to bear that in mind. But we're going to try out printing this size first and see what happens. The next thing I need to do is to change the colour. This is important when we come to cut, because Silhouette will automatically put a red line around this shape. So I want to change this colour to something else, so that when I tell it to cut, I can tell it to cut I can tell it to just cut green lines and not cut red lines. So if it was to cut both, if I had it both set at red, it would cut twice. It would cut round the shape and then round the offset as well, and we don't want that. So we've changed that to green, or whatever colour you would like. And then the next thing we're going to do is group these together. So I'm just going to select both of them by drawing a box on the page, and right click and hit group. So now if I move these, they will move together as one complete shape. I can also ungroup them at any time if I wanted to delete the offset layer or do anything like that, but for now we're just going to leave it as one shape. So in order to test out a few different things, I might then want to duplicate it and, for example, alter the colours or alter the size. And the easiest way to do that is through the replicate panel. We're getting there. So let me just drag this over here. And super simple, duplicate, you can duplicate right down. You can also fill the space and fill the page with duplicates. If we do that, you'll see that it's duplicated many times. It's a useful feature. We don't actually want to do that, we just want one. So we'll just go back to the original and we're just going to duplicate it once. So with this shape, I want to try and have a go at making it slightly smaller and see how that one turns out on the test sheet. So again, I'm going to go up here on the top panel and resize it. You can of course resize through these tools, just like this, just like you would normally do with some software, but I quite like to do it here because I'm quite interested in knowing exactly how large it's going to be. So I'm going to hit 5, I'm going to make it slightly smaller. So the next thing you can do, and this one I want to talk about colours, because what you see on screen doesn't often match what you see on paper. Depending on the device that you're using, the colours, the colour format, whether you're in RGB or CYMK, and how you created your designs, and all of these sorts of things can affect it. So I quite like to try out, I'll either do this in Photoshop, I'll take the design to Photoshop and I'll either brighten it or alter the saturation. You can also do it in Silhouette Studio itself. There aren't as many options as other design softwares like Photoshop, but it's worth having a go with their tools first as well, just to see what effects you can create. So I'm going to duplicate this again, and I'm going to go into the colour one, which is this one down the side here. I've now got like a million tabs open, so let's shut some of these. Okay, so you have the colour changing tool here. So across the top we've got various things that you can use. I like to go to the third one across, which is contrast, brightness and saturation. And what we're going to do is make sure we've got our object selected, and then we can alter some of these things. So we can change the saturation, make it all the colours darker. We can also alter the brightness, which now looks dreadful. We can do a few different things. I'm going to test this one out just because I tend to find that even though it looks like some of these colours look really icky bright on the screen, they print out quite well. So one of the things I will show you is I printed out like basically a bit of a cheat sheet for different colours and how they actually print. So I printed out all of the colours that I might want and basically put them up to like maximum saturation and as bright as it could be, and printed out a sheet so I could basically colour match. I will show you it later on in this video so you can see what I mean and talk about how you could use one as well. So we've got 3 things there now that we can test out as a die cut. So I'm going to fill this page with our other designs that we have worked on, and then we will give it a test print and see how it turns out. While I'm here, I also thought it was worth showing you how the offset tool can work if your shape is just slightly more complicated or you want to simplify it. So for example, this one is a bit more of a bumpy kind of image, and again, if we hit offset, we get a lovely clean line around the edge. I think that's probably about the size that I want. So I'm just going to again change that to green. And just before I group it, I want to show you a feature which is quite neat. And I mean, this one probably doesn't need it, but if you do have a slightly more complex shape, this is really useful. So if you double click, so what I've just done there, I've just double clicked on that offset line. And what it's brought up is the options to, and let me again just drag this over so we can see it, to have a look at essentially the cuts and the line. So you have this option here to simplify. So if you've got a particularly intricate shape and there's lots of bits where the machine and the blade is going to have to go cut in and out and wiggle around and all that sort of stuff, and you want to make it a bit easier for the machine, a bit more simple and therefore a little bit faster when you're actually printing, you can hit this simplify. And what it will do is it creates a much more simple shape around the edge. You can see that we've got far fewer points now around this. So it's kept the overall shape, but in certain areas, like down here, for example, where there's like a bit of a couple of bumps, it's actually just turned that into one curve rather than following it exactly and going in and out. So that's just another tool that you can use that I thought was worth sharing with you. So the next step, now we've set up our test sheet, is to print out and do a test print, and do a test cut and see how it comes out. I always print from PC, so I email it to my quite old, super slow, glitchy PC, but for some reason, so there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, I was having some issues printing from Mac, issues that selected, acknowledge. I don't know if these have been solved. I have just downloaded a new version of Silhouette Studio the other week, and I need to just sort of test out. I did do a little bit of testing, but I still was finding that the colours are coming out better when I print from PC. So exactly the same document, same printer, same printer settings, same everything, colours are coming out brighter from PC. Nice bright popping colours are really important for my designs, so because I don't use pastels, I use quite bright colours, so it is important that I get a really good quality finish. So for now I'm still sticking with PC. It's annoying because I have to load up this old PC and like email it to myself, but I do find the better results from PC, and I don't really know why that is. If someone knows, please do let me know, but this is just my process that I go through. So yeah, next thing, test out the print out the test sheet. So So we have our first test print and I've just stuck this down onto the mat. I like to just use some brown paper tape. It doesn't look that pretty, to stick it down on the four corners. What you want to avoid is your sticker paper moving as much as you can. So if you've got a mat which is more sort of well used, using brown paper tape just helps it stick down. Use the paper tape because it's fairly cheap, and also with it being paper based, is more like eco. So you can see there's quite a lot of variation here between the colours, how these have come out. This is, I mean, you probably can't see, the light's not great over here, but this is probably heading towards what I was imagining, but it's still a bit dull, so some more work needs to happen there. This one's come out a lot nicer, but size, we probably will end up with something more like this. These looking quite dull. And these ones, this was the original, very, very dark, and then these were actually edited the colours and I brightened them up a bit and they look a lot like nicer, I think. And then this one has come out quite nicely as well. I quite like this one. I like the contrast between the lighter text and the dark background, which is something, yeah, which has come out quite nice. So I'm gonna stick these in the machine now and I'll just talk you through some of the cut settings to be aware of. Right, so we're now going to set these up to cut. So we're going to go across to the send panel, and I'm just going to turn my machine on. And usually when you first go into this, it will show simple line settings. And it'll basically give you the option to cut everything. We don't want to do that because we only want to cut our green lines that we set up earlier. We don't want to cut the red ones. So when you come in here, it'll be pre-selected as both of them. But if you click on the different the colour swatches here, it'll pick out and it'll show you what you're actually looking at. So we already know that we don't want to cut our red lines, so we can go ahead and deselect those. What we do want to cut is our green lines. Now, because we are cutting die cuts, we want the sticker paper to be cut all the way through. So the settings I usually use are and Silhouette basically has a number of different settings that you can pick from and use as a basis, or you can create your own. I actually use sticker paper clear, and because I'm using the auto blade. Different machines have different blades, but I believe most of them come with the auto blade. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this leaves you with quite a lot of options, because if you're cutting something quite thick, you're going to need your blade depth set to, so your blade depth goes between 1 and 10. So if you're cutting something really thick like card or fabric, you're probably going to want that set towards 10. And basically the blade depth is how far the blade sticks out. So if you take your auto blade and look at it, you can see that when you push it in, you can actually get the blade to pop out a bit further. And basically that's what you're doing when you're setting your blade depth. So I usually have mine set to 4. I like it to go around each shape twice just to make sure you get a really nice clean cut. And I like to set my force to 33. And the speed is 4, and that's what Silhouette has recommended. Now, it took me quite a long time to get these settings right, so definitely have a play about with it. Don't be disheartened if you don't get it right the first time. There is a feature here to test. And what it will do is it will cut a little triangle out the top corner, which is really useful to see if you've got your settings right. But yeah, just have a bit of a play around with them and see what works best for you. So after that, we're going to go off and we're going to hit send and send it off to the machine. Right, so here we are. We've just come on the floor because the light is better by this window. So yeah, we're on the floor. Hope that's okay. So let's have a look at what we've done. This is really the early stage of the design process, because I think sometimes things work better in your head than they do on paper. So let's start at the top. Let's start with these. So you can see the one that we edited the colours on is this one, and this has come out better, but it's still not quite right. I think the size is quite good, and also I don't think the colours are right, and it doesn't sort of have the sort of same kind of, I don't know, it doesn't look as interesting as it did on screen. I think that's maybe because of the colours. Maybe it needs a little bit more illustration to it, but I still like the overall idea of it. The second one, so we're going to have a look at this one. The colours, the one that we edited for the colours, so I tested out one that was slightly different. These colours have come out a lot better, and I really like this. The offset is probably a bit too thick, and the size is probably better rather in the larger one. But overall, I think it's getting there. With these ones, again, this I think is just a bit too dark, and the offset is way too much. But this one, I think the colours have come out really nice. The offset's too much, but I think we've got something we can work with there. These little ones as well are quite sweet, but again, I think the offset is just a bit too much. And yeah, again, I think it's the shape that's sort of irritating me a little bit with those. So yeah, we're really at the start of the process on these. So I like to print stuff off and test them because it gives me something I can properly look at rather than looking on the screen. And it's really useful for me to really start like thinking about how the designs could come together, like picking out a certain shade of blue that I really like in this one, for example, and saying, right, we're gonna make something else that sort of aligns with this, and this is kind of, like I say, it's all sort of part of the process. So we're very early stages here. I hope this gives you an idea of part of the process and some of the things that we go through. Part of the next bit in the process is thinking about the colours and how they've come out. And as I was saying earlier, I created this a bit of a cheat sheet for myself on some of my sticker paper. I created this in Silhouette Studio, and it's basically a range of colours with all of the different colour codes and how they turn out. So if I'm thinking that I want it to be a certain shade, or if, for example, as part of your, maybe like your brand or your style, you have like certain shades that you like to use, having something like this is really useful, because as we said, what it looks like on the screen often isn't what you get printed out, and it can depend a lot on your photo settings. So this one, I made note at the top, this is the photo semi-gloss settings on my printer. I also printed it out, this cheat sheet, in matte. Some of my designs actually print out in photo matte settings because the colours come out better. So it's just a good reference point to know how your colours are going to turn out. So this is something that I'll use next when I'm thinking about the colours and how I actually want the designs to look. Show you is how I go about setting up a sticker sheet. I will show you how the star sign stickers turned out at the end as well. But the process is a tiny bit different. So I'm going to work on something now in this video, slightly different sheet, but I'll show you how I go about doing it. So here we are in Photoshop, and I'm setting up the backing, the thing that's going to sort of sit underneath where all the stickers are going to sit onto. So I've created this already in Photoshop. I like to save it as just a PSD file so that I can, every time I'm doing a new sticker sheet, I've got this to work from and I can just edit it. So the theme of this sheet is going to be a cozy night in journaling. So I'm going to just go in here and I'm going to change this. Excuse me. Hey. Thank you. So I'm going to delete this. Okay, cozy night in journaling. It's a bit big actually, isn't it? Maybe let's just bear with. Let's make it slightly smaller. I think, yes, that will be fine. Okay, is this all spelled correctly? Yes. And then we're going to change the code for the sticker sheet. So let's call this one J001. Apologies if you can hear the washing machine in the background, by the way. Right, so the next thing I'm going to want to do is change this colour across the top. I actually think this colour is going to work quite well for my sheet, but if I didn't, I would just change it for a different one in here, but maybe not that. But you get the idea. So you can basically, it's just a bit of a quick way of, yeah, let's definitely not have that. Let's undo. Lovely. I'm just going to move this down slightly, I think, as well, because it seems to have moved. Yes, right, that's, I think, yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Lovely. Okay, we've got some text at the bottom here, which is fab. So yeah, so next thing I'm going to go and save that as a PNG file. So I've got in my silhouette folder, let's go create new folder, journaling, evening. Okay, we're going to save that as a PNG file and hit save. Okay, so now I've got this opened up into Silhouette. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on my registration marks. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and we're going to move the sheet to around about here. And we're going to change that line colour and we're going to set that line colour as blue. So across the top I've already opened up the images that I wanted to add into this sheet. So I again did these in Procreate earlier on and I'm just going to go ahead and copy those and pop them in here. Again, these are way too big, so for planner stickers I would normally aim for things which are no bigger than 2 centimeters high, because I design them for my planners and that's how big that's a good size for my planners basically. So I've done some really cute illustrations of like our books, like miniature versions, which I think look really good. Again, let's just size that down to 2. Just as a starting point. I might want to make these a bit bigger later. So probably at this point you don't actually have enough illustrations to make up a sheet, but I think let's just kind of go through this anyway because I think it'd be useful to show you. So let's sort of start with, I like to sort of start by basically placing all of these on the sheet, and I'm going to start with what I want my bigger stickers to be, which in this case is going to be this square one because it's a bit more detailed. You've kind of got the coffee mug there. So it's going to more be for, well, let's maybe even try it at 4 centimeters because I actually want to show you how to do an internal offset on this. That might be too big actually, but maybe let's, yeah. So for this one in particular, I actually want to cut on the inside of the shape rather than on the outside. So I'm going to hit, instead of going offset, I'm going to hit internal offset. And again, Silhouette will create a nice red line inside. That at the moment is too much, so we're going to go ahead and make that smaller. And I think about that's probably quite good. So then you're going to want to change the colour of this line. Now, unlike last time, we're not going to have them all the same colour. So this one we've gone for blue on the outside of this shape, so we need to pick a different colour because when we go to print we're going to tell it to cut a different depth. So let's choose green for this one. You can choose any colour you want, it doesn't matter, it's up to you. Also sometimes if I'm doing like a darker shape I'll choose something like white so it shows up a bit more and makes it a bit easier for you. So the next thing that we're going to do is make sure we can group these together. So I'm just going to move that out the way for a second just so I can grab both of these and then hit group. And then I'm just going to move this back to where it was. The next thing I might want to do is pick out some other bigger shapes. So we might want this journaling one to be a bit bigger. We also need to create a little offset around this one. So again, hit the offset button and let's make that offset a bit bigger. That looks good, and we will change the colour to green. Perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now for each one of these shapes. So I've just started to drop all of these different illustrations onto the sheet, and as you can see it's taken shape nicely. There's a few things I'm already seeing that I want to adjust and move, like change the sizes and things like that. There's definitely space for a few more illustrations on here as well, so the next thing for me will obviously be to test the colours, make sure I'm happy with those. I love, like, look at this, like, little mini Have Courage book. Oh, this is so cute. If you're new, by the way, this is one of our, these are both our journal designs, which I've made. Oh, I love it so much. Anyway, I'm probably not going to finish this in this video. Well, I'm not going to, because I want to get this out and I won't have time. But I thought I would just show you the slight difference in how you send this as well to your machine. So again, we're going to go into line and we're going to deselect those red lines. And I probably should have done these colours the other way around, but so in this case our green lines are our lovely illustrations and our blue line is the one around the edge. So when it comes to setting up for cutting, you just need to set up 2 different cut settings and depths. So for the blue one, you're going to want this whole shape to cut out. So you want to select same settings we had before when we have for our die cut stickers. The machine isn't on at the moment, so it's not coming up with the options. But so I usually go for sticker paper clear, the blade depth at 4, the force at 33, I believe. Check earlier in the video if you want to see. And then for the green lines, I usually select sticker paper white, and that has a slightly lower blade depth and slightly lower head force. Do test out your own settings though. Every sticker paper and machine is just slightly different, so definitely just test it out. Those are settings I found that work best for me, but you just want to set up 2 different depths, and then you can cut out the whole sheet in one go. So it's super easy and yeah, super simple. So yeah, I hope you found this useful little tutorial. Sorry we haven't had time to properly finish it in this video, but yeah, if you check out my channel, you might be able to see me finish this off in a studio vlog or something like that, if you're keen to see how it turned out in the end. So these are the final designs. You can just hear the printer in the background, just printing a few more off. But this is where we landed. So this one went through quite a few different iterations. Some of these you might recognise, some of these looking quite different now. But I'm really pleased with how they turned out. These are the personalised ones that you get in each pack for your star sign as well. So this is the Capricorn one. The colours I think have just come out so well. It's kind of worth just spending some time playing about with them. And then each one I've illustrated the little star sign symbol as well. So yeah, it finally came together.